So welcome, Evie.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I'm bloody glad to get you on. I've been meaning to do it for a long time. I say that to so many people. I must just have a lazy slacker motivation part to me, but I don't know. No, it's busyness, actually. That's what it is. But
It
you've
is. And lots of amazing people too. So many amazing people that you can chat to.
Yeah, and it doesn't just happen overnight. That's the thing too. It takes a lot. I was telling someone the other day it takes 8 to 10 hours to do one podcast. Overall, by the time you line it up, figure it
Yeah.
all out and everything else, everyone's like, "Oh my god, I just saw it was an hour," and I'm like, "Yeah," but then the magical fairies don't just upload it and edit it and produce it. But anyway.
We wish.
Oh, don't we wish? Oh, don't we wish? I've been watching. You and I've known each other for years, and there's a backstory to all of this. The work that you're doing, and so you're a celebrant mindset coach. You empower girls, power women. You got your podcast, Wildly Positive. You just started Dance Dopamine. So let's cover all of that stuff. I reckon it's fantastic. But let's go back to the very start because you know I'm watching you and you're happy, you're vibrant, you what do you call yourself, a positivity rebel, and everything's going fantastically, but it wasn't, and there you had to have a real mindset shift to say, well, that's it, I'm not letting life bloody squash me, and I'm not a victim, and I'm not, nobody rules my bloody life, I rule it. And thank God you did that, because now you're telling other people, showing other people how to do that, because I think one of the biggest things for women is that they do often feel like they're a victim of circumstance without any emphasis on the word victim. Do you know what I mean? But there's so many things going on around them that they feel like they put themselves last, or, that their dreams will never come true because, oh, I'm too busy being a mum or a wife, or, that kind of stuff. And I love the fact that you're getting in there going, no, punch, bam. No, that's not the bloody truth of it. And let's shift this.
Yeah.
Go back to the start though. Like, why did you? What sort of really made you say, I'm not sticking with the workforce anymore. I'm going out on my own, and I'm going to control my life, and
Yeah.
have full say.
Yes. Well, to go right back, I'm back in early childhood education. So I'm a teacher by trade. That's my trade. And I was, like I didn't do it straight out of uni. I was a little bit older, but I was also a young mum. So I was doing that while I was having my first baby,
Wow.
20, what was I, 23. And so I did that course by distance, and I had to do weekends in Melbourne, and I loved it. It was the most empowering, inspiring place down at Monash Uni when I went. And we'd have the whole back of the room would be lined up with prams because we'd all have our babies there, and it was incredible. These monks of education were just inspiring us, and it was so good. And then I got into the workforce. I actually started teaching, and I hated it. I hated it. I think it was just a combination of a lot of people who had been in that kind of industry for a long time. And so I was kind of a bit more new age. I just trained, there was new thinking, and they didn't like it. So it's very hard to kind of come into, a workplace where they've been doing the same thing that way for 25 years, and that's the way you do it. And so was coming up with a lot of things. I think it was also just kind of bad luck that I also just had really power hungry women above me that, made it really awful.
Yep.
So there was two different places. The first one didn't work out so well, and so I was like, that's okay, maybe it was just that place, I'll try again. And just so deeply unhappy, really toxic workplaces. Like I was, vomiting before work because I was so anxious about going. It was just awful. And so in that time, I got married, had my first baby, then we got married. And when we got married, we found it kind of hard to find a celebrant that we really loved.
Yeah.
Someone who, can I swear on this?
Yeah, go for your life. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Someone who gave a shit. It was a lot of just like people who worked full-time jobs, and then at the weekends they'll just come and help you get married, and that was it.
Yeah.
No one really cared. I actually had some celebrants who gave me shit because we'd already had a baby out of wedlock.
Oh,
It was crazy. And so we paid a lot of money. The ceremony that they gave us was not great, so I rewrote it. And at the time I was doing training in education, so I was doing a lot of public speaking and things, and I joked with my mum, God, for that much money, I just wrote it. I could have done that.
Yep.
And mum was like a dog bone, and she started researching, and she was like, there is no one that's under 50 or 60 that's doing this around here locally. And so kind of over that time I had got into the second teaching position, and that's when I was really unhappy. And so I started the celebrant training, and it was like this little golden secret that I could have, that no one knew, that it was just giving me hope, that I thought maybe one day I could teach less. That's what I was kind of hoping. Fell pregnant again. And so at that stage, I was teaching 3-year-old kinder. I had a 3-year-old and I was pregnant. I've never felt so touched out in all my life. I'd go to work and they were all over you. I'd come home, she'd be all over me. The inside one was kicking me, and the take-home work was just huge. I was trying to do this study, finish the study, and people started reaching out. And I just was so unhappy. I just said to my husband, I think I'm going to jump. I think I'm going to do it. Grant, to be fair, it was probably sooner than when we were financially ready for me to jump. But I just said my well-being is so much more important than this. I can't wait. I'm going to do it. And within a couple of months, I had the whole next year booked out for weddings.
So, I absolutely love that story. And it really reminds me of so many people who are scared to jump. And I get it, you know what I mean? Because if you're trying to pay a mortgage and you've got, kids, young kids, you don't want to sort of go, well, I'm throwing away a full-time job and I'm just going to take a chance on this, and to be fair, it's a 50-50 chance to, without the hard work. It might just fall into place with a bit of luck and a bit of hard work, or it might not. You might grind yourself to the bone and it still doesn't work. But what I love about what you said, and it's so freaking true, is your well-being is way more important than money. And yes, you can have a secure job, but if you hate it and it's effectively killing you, because that's what it's doing, we're going to be in 10 years. Oh, I'm glad I put up with that. I'm glad now that I've got diabetes. I'm glad now that I've got all these bloody illnesses and arthritis. I can't walk properly because of all the stress that's put all this. Let's not go into woo-woo stuff, but, my cells aren't bloody regenerating properly because I've got so much stress, and now I've got this chronic illness. And it drives me bloody mad, that we constantly put our well-being and our health second, and not willing to take a risk. I do get it, but I'm glad you did it. And when you say, I was booked out in a year, when you start, you don't know. You don't know if that's going to be the case or not. And I think that you've got to work at it, and you've got to show up every day, to do it. And you did.
Yeah. I've got so many things to say on that, Karen. Firstly, I completely acknowledge my privilege in that I've got a partner who has an incredible, solid, well-paying job.
Yeah.
And so there's always that. I never dismiss that. I am able to take chances because he is so solid financially. And that's always been the case. Secondly, I was working part-time. So I often say to women, when they're thinking about they want to start something new or they want to try something, immediately women think that they need to be covering a full-time wage with their new, their side hustle or whatever it might be. But if you're not starting with a full-time wage, you've got to calculate the numbers properly. Yeah. So what I did was I worked out, obviously, my teaching pay for a couple of days a week. Then I worked out how much I was going to charge for a wedding, how many weddings that would need to be to cover it. And that was my magic number. And worked out that to start with, because I was charging less because I was new, to start with I needed to do 40 weddings a year. so that was what I was aiming for. And that gave me kind of a marker to be like, okay, I can do this. It is financially viable because eventually it is going to bring in the same amount of money. So yeah, there is that. And also too, I started like when I was a teenager, late teenager, I got fibromyalgia, which is it's similar to chronic fatigue. So, pregnancies and things like that, like I've always had to be quite careful with that. I can't run myself into the ground or else, he has to take time off work. Mum has to come in and help with the kids. It's not viable. That's actually been a blessing because I've had to learn really early how to actually take care of myself and that I can't put myself last or else everything else falls apart. So yeah, to go and put myself through that of going to work, being so unhappy, it was quite a drive to get there. Lots of bring home work. It just didn't add up. Yet on paper, it looked like the most amazing job. And even my mum said to me, why would you give that up? Like it looked, on paper, it's the perfect job. And yeah, you have to kind of, I hear that a lot as well. People saying, oh, but what will everyone think because that option's so good? It's only if it's for you.
Yeah.
If it's the perfect job on paper, but then it's killing you inside, like you said, then it's not the perfect job. And we're all different with what we need. So yeah, I forget your original question, but yeah, I wanted to I did want to show, like, encourage people, but if you break it down properly, I have that conversation a lot.
Yeah.
They're thinking they need to bring in like a 6-figure wage. And I'm like, but you didn't even earn that to begin with. So why don't you start with what you actually earned?
That's the trouble, though, isn't it? These people on social media saying, "Oh, I'll show you how to earn a six-figure income," and then what you do, and I've spoken to so many people like this, is that they feel like a failure if they're not meeting the hype of these people. And yeah, you can earn a six-figure income just having a bloody teaching job. Like they kind of make it like, oh, only the magical entrepreneurs can ever make the six. Well, come on, like that's a crock of shit, and that should not be your measurement. And when you say an unhappy job, like I think we go through school, and God, I hope it's different now, but I don't think it is. Hearing what I hear coming home from school, it's like, well, you got to compete and you got to get good scores. You've got to be the best, and you've got to this, and no one will accept you into a course or into this if you're not the best, and if you're not, far out. If you want security, you've got to have a good job. Like. Stop it. Like, stop brainwashing kids. And I was I had to do shorthand and typing, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do metalwork and woodwork, and my teachers are like, no, girls don't do that. And I'm like, but I do. No, you can do shorthand and typing and cooking and sewing, and I freaking hated that shit. And there was no way in hell that I knew 100% there was no way in hell I'm going out to get a job that entailed any of those things, and I want to be a hands-on person, and now I can build bloody anything, and I just had that skill, but the school wouldn't, back then they did listen. I don't know if they listen now, but it's that whole mindset, isn't it? And so, and therefore, when we set ourselves up for what we think is success, it's based on a whole lot of outdated principles, that I really think success is, can I go to bed at night and feel like I've made a difference to somebody else's life, and that I'm moving the planet in a good direction, that I'm moving people. To me, that's success. Whatever amount of money comes with that, that's
exactly. Success needs to be an internal factor, not external factors. I remember also something else I was going to say too. You said about like working hard and the 50-50, that you can kind of grind and then still nothing happened. I really do not subscribe to the idea of women saying that they were just lucky. That gives me the shits. No woman I know does a half-assed job and is just lucky, not in this world. And so I really, I do though think that you can be in the right time, like right place at the right time. And so I was fortunate, and it was good timing that there were no other young celebrants around here. So that worked in my favor. However, I did show up every day, and I did, work really hard, and I hustled for that. And while I was super scared of leaving my job, what I didn't realize is what happens then is all of a sudden you have all this extra time. The time that you would have been going to work, you can then put into the business. And so then that is what helps it grow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that it's kind of, if you find a gap in the market and you find a bit of a niche thing, then it can really work. But you still, it's not enough to just send it into the ethos and then be like, oh, well, it's niche enough that it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
You still have to back it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, and I am not a hustle and grind person. I don't believe in it. I sure work hard, show up, like do all the right things and be consistent and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're hustle and grinding and you're still up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then you're wearing yourself out, you got nothing left for the rest of you, to give to life. That's not it, And yeah, look, there's people out there that are going to argue with me and say, bullshit, Karen, you have to hustle and grind or you don't get the shit you want. But I don't agree. But everything's a balance. And I think we've as human beings, we're not good at finding balance. We kind of go all gung-ho at one or I give up at the other end. And, so it's this beautiful balance. And when you are in balance, you're working hard and it's, I always think you should work hard, but it shouldn't be hard work. It's kind of a different, same with relationships. You should work hard, at your relationship, make sure it's okay, but it shouldn't be hard work. And if it's hard work, I'm not going to tell people I'm not going to inspire divorces. But after you, so then what was it that made you go from, not from, because you're still doing celebrants, yeah. So, but then you've grown it to.
Yeah, now it's just gone random.
Yeah.
It's gone random. So what happened was I was showing up all the time on Instagram as a celebrant and, really trying to grow that business. And I agree completely with what you say. And what I really find too is that, especially being a young woman, if you're having babies, that you go through seasons. There's seasons where I've been able to work harder than others, and that's just the way it is. This year, my youngest has gone to school, so I now have no one at home. So now it's another season of I can push a bit harder this year and going on. The last couple of years there's been things I've wanted to do, but I'm like, just don't have the time, not yet. It's coming. So I've enjoyed the kids at home while I've had them. And now I can kind of push a bit more. And so I think it's very much you lean into different seasons.
Yeah.
So I was showing up all the time and people were just constantly messaging me saying, oh, you're so positive. And I was finding people were following me, people that weren't even going to get married, people who were already married. And people were just saying, I love your message. You're so positive. I love watching you and hearing you talk. And so I just kept sharing it. And then I felt a real so how do you, and I loved it. I loved doing that. I loved, that's naturally how I am as a person. But I was like, how does a marriage celebrant extend that at all? It was, I just felt a bit like I'd love to do more with that, but I couldn't really with what I was doing. And then someone actually messaged me and said, I've just finished this course and it was incredible. And straight away I thought of you and I think that you'd really like it. And it was a life coaching course with the beautiful You Coaching Academy. Who have changed my life in so many ways. And so, but it was a lot of money. I had 2 little kids and, was then running my own business. I didn't have a lot of, income to kind of splash around. I was doing okay. So I just started kind of saving. And then, did the life coaching course. And I actually, by coincidence, I'd already signed up, but I'd signed up, I think, in the January of 2020. And so then it's a 6-month course and I did it during 2020 and it saved me. It was my outlet when I was, at home, my first business crumbled. I was struggling to keep that going because no one could get married and people were panicking, rightly so. They didn't want to pay any more money to anyone that they didn't think was going to come to fruition. So it was, like the first 10 days of COVID, I lost 6 months worth of work.
Yeah.
And it was just, going through emails and trying to assure people that I would be there when they needed them. But I didn't also, I was like, am I going to have to go and work at Bunnings? I don't know. I didn't know none of us knew how long it was going to last, what it looked like. For the first time ever in the history, the Attorney General said no more weddings. Literally no one can get married, not even illegals only. So I did the life coaching course and I was one of those painfully annoying people that came out of COVID with this new lease on life, this new qualification. And I was like, oh, I'm ready to take on the world. And for a lot of it, the people that were in that course, the women that were in that course were my social outlet. We had Zoom calls every week and it was amazing. And so I kind of niched myself into mindset. Mindset was really what spoke to me. And I'd found an outlet for being able to use the kind of the positivity and everything like that. And so now I run the two businesses side by side.
That's awesome. And by the way, I'm going to take the focus right off you for a second. Just say,
sure.
If I had to have a paid job, I kind of like the idea of Bunnings.
Me too. But it was, in a lot of wedding and coaching industry, because I always say to people, nothing I do is essential.
Yeah.
If I'm working, then people know that there's money in the economy, right? I'm not an essential worker by any means. And so there's so many times, and you would know yourself, running your own business can at times be hard and lonely, and you get over it and you think, God, I'm sick of having to convince people why they need me in their life. And so every now and again we all have the Bunnings Woolies conversation where we're like, maybe now's the time. Maybe now we've hit the point. We have to go and work at Bunnings.
Well, fortunately, mine's got busier and busier and busier, and I absolutely love it. I have this statement. I will never convince anyone they need me. I stand in my conviction, and if you need it, great, talk to me. If you don't need it, great, that's fine. We'll have a cuppa. But you know what? I want to go back to something you said earlier too. Is that I acknowledge my privilege too, because, if Nikki's my partner's earning a great wage, and I had that security as well, of dropping my other work and saying, look, I'm going to do this full time. I'm just going to go into it. And I started right when COVID hit, and it was like, oh, far out. I couldn't have picked the worst time. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to use that time just to build relationships, to hone my knowledge, and to say, well, rather than, it gave me time to gather everything that I'd done for 40 years, and say, well, okay, so I used to teach that and I used to do that. And this is something that I'm really really, really, really enthusiastic about. So how can I bring that into what I've already taught and what my experiences are? So it actually gave me that time to spread shit out on the desk and go, what's important here, and what do I really need to. So, it's funny because you said you come out of COVID all bright and bubbly, and I think so did I, but COVID's been a funny thing, hasn't it? Anyway, let's not go down the COVID rat hole, because fucking hell, it's turned from a rabbit hole to a rat hole, I really reckon. So with your mindset coaching, so you go into this course, and then and you had mindset in mind, so you did the life coaching course, you had mindset in mind, but then how did you, because, and I'm thinking about this as a lesson for other people might be listening to this, as I've done this qualification, but now how do I build a business with this? And there's a lot of women that do a qualification and then go, well, how am I going to do something with it? Because clients don't just come to you. It's not just, you don't just sort of put a sign out the front of your house and hope that it works. So
especially where I live.
Yeah, and where I live too, I'm on a bloody farm. No one's coming here. Yeah. But it's because you said, I focus on mindset. So you already had this positivity thing that was going on. Everything's positive, and now I've done this course, and now I really want to focus niche on mindset. Did you find it hard to sort of start switching some of your social media content, that without it being too much of a harsh shift for people to cope with? How did you blend that in?
Well, my biggest thing has been that I never keep people in the dark about what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, I'm a mindset coach.
Yeah.
So I started my Instagram page, and I should say too, disclaimer about Instagram, people have a lot of issues with social media, and I don't buy into that. Social media is a magazine that you get to curate yourself. If you don't like what you're seeing, change it, because there's so much good stuff on there, and it's a free tool that you get to use for business. You would never get that reach. I would never be able to pay for that kind of reach in some kind of other advertising. And so I love Instagram. I love it because I've made so many good connections, community. There's people that I am completely inspired by that I would never normally meet or hear of, or I think it's amazing. And there's shit on there too, but you get rid of it. You just don't see it. So I quite like that. I think it's a bit of a metaphor with life too. You just take out the trash, Yeah. So I started my page as I enrolled in the Celebrant course.
Yeah.
So then all the time I had no wedding content because I hadn't done any weddings, but I was saying, at the moment I'm doing this. Today I have to do my mock ceremony, and I was just sharing me, so that when it came time to be being registered, the Attorney General is quite strict. You can't take bookings before you're registered. So by the time it came time for that, I had a list of 30 emails of people who wanted me to get in touch with them once I was registered. So and I did the same when it came time to do the life coach course. I was like, I'm needing a bit more. You're all sharing. It's no secret that I love mindset and positivity, and I love sharing this. I think I found my thing that's going to help me. And so I just shared the course. And so it also meant that by the time I was doing it, people weren't surprised. It wasn't new to them. And I think it was Lisa Messenger once said, she writes incredible books and things, and she does a lot of speaking, but she once brought out a dance track, random. But she has said before, as long as you've got your kind of pillars of what your values are and what your goal is, it doesn't matter what form that comes in, So she's like, the dance track totally met my pillars of core values, and so I'm happy to run with that. And so I just kind of really honed in. I worked with a business coach myself, really honed in on what my messaging was about, whether it was Celebrant Me or Life Coach Me. I worked that out. I did kind of get to the point where I was like, God, is this getting too messy? But people didn't seem to mind. And the other thing was, I then started coaching heaps of brides.
So that's good.
Past clients, past couples of mine had still been following along because they're still watching me. So then they were like, oh, actually, I'd like to do that. And then vice versa. So now I'm marrying people that I've coached. And there's been a couple of times where I've done both at the same time. So I've been coaching them in the lead up to their wedding, and then I marry them. So that's kind of worked well. I have just recently split them and done a wedding page, celebrant page, only because the coaching side was getting way too many moving parts. Like I said to you earlier, I get bored really easy. So that was getting a lot of moving parts, and so I was finding that it was getting a bit messy, and so I've just split it. But to be honest, I hate having the two, because then my head's going to be in two different places, whereas when it was together, it could just be me, this is what I'm thinking on any given day, and that was fine. Whereas now I've got to be a bit more strategic. I've just got to think it through a bit more, which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, I've just recently split them.
I get it, because I've got LinkedIn, and which I use a lot. I like LinkedIn, but then I've got my two Facebook, get off the bench, and my private one, and also on Instagram, get off the bench, my private one. Although I do have to think, oh shit, which one's this got to go on? And I hate social media, but I do it. But I've actually, for me, I've started liking that, because then I've become really closed down on my 2 private ones, which has been, it's actually been nicer for me. It's I'm not, I feel like I can just come and go as I please with them. Does that for me? But
Yeah.
and I'm slack. I'm not a good social media. I'm slack at it. Everyone says just share what you're doing. I'm like, oh, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if I'm packing a donkey? Do you know?
A lot of people would care about donkeys.
Well, I forget to get my phone out.
I know.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
so you're doing the coaching, but then you got the and this is just a perfect
Oh, yeah,
example.
I didn't even answer your question, really. How do you start? That's what you asked me. How did I start doing it?
Yes, you did.
Well, yes, but also I have always told myself what's the worst that can happen. So I jump before I'm ready. And I like to do the Band-Aid approach. You rip it off before you're ready and it's just done, And so it's also, we kind of joke, that's kind of the way we parent as well. Rip it off and, like I had them looked after overnight when they were tiny, earlier than I was ready, because I was like, then it's done, And so I just tried heaps of different things, and I just put it out there, and I was like, right, I'm going to do free coaching, pro bono, so I can get better. Who wants to do it? And I just kept putting myself out there. And that's one thing that's probably the hardest part of women starting business. And everyone says, but what will people think? And I really actually don't know what it is, that I just don't seem to have that part. I just don't give a shit. I often think to myself, in just over 10 years, I'll be mid-40s. And what about if I'm looking back thinking, I could have made a red hot go of that, but I was worried about what some person somewhere was thinking. I just don't buy into it. I just don't care. And I do have moments where it's like, vulnerability hangover, and I think, God, shit, I hope this goes well. I care about that. But for people who are sitting at home, not living their best lives and not following their dreams, I don't care what they have to say. I'll always take on criticism, especially if it's from someone I respect and who is, taking chances and doing that sort of thing. I totally respect that. But for people who have no time to do it for themselves, but are very quick to give advice to everyone else, I just switch off from it. I think that if you can, and that's a muscle, right? Like that's a muscle you have to flex and you have to build. And I think if you can, the sooner you can do that, and the sooner you can put yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable, then the better it is. The quicker you get used to that feeling. And now it's adrenaline rather than like, I launched something last night and I didn't want to vomit. I was just excited.
I love it. Well, it conjures up three sayings for me, and one of them is never take constructive criticism from somebody who's never constructed anything in their life. That's the first one. And then I'm thinking about the metaphor about if don't take advice from people who are not willing to get in the ring. They're sitting on the sidelines. Don't bloody take any. And the other one is how you said about worrying about what people are thinking of you and all that sort of stuff. It's a great saying that I love, is you wouldn't worry what people are saying or thinking about you if you realized how little they actually did.
Yes.
That's such a great one. And it's kind of like, and I always say it to people, people might say, oh my God, did you see what Evie did? And they say it for about 10 minutes, and then it's on, if that 5 minutes, and then it's like, what are you having for dinner? Oh, I'm sick of the kids. And it's like, you've forgotten about it. Or at the very worst, if you do something that is really freaking out there, it's till the next best thing comes along. And I tell you what, there's a next best gossip thing that comes out the next day, so people aren't, they're just not. And if they are, I have another thing, and this is kind of like even about homosexuality, the same kind of thing. The people that are worrying about what you're fucking doing, like seriously, what is wrong with them that they're sitting there smashing their heads against a wall worrying about what you're doing? Like, I just think they're not worth worrying. It's just not worth the it's not worth the bloody pressure that it puts in your head. Do you know,
No,
just
and I think to myself, like, really, I think a lot of the time what it is the 3 seconds when they're scrolling and my thing comes up, it's the 3 seconds of, fuck, what's she doing now? Okay. And then they've scrolled on, like, and I just think the toxic energy that those people are putting inside themselves, if I start worrying about them, then that's what I'm doing.
yeah.
And I think too, if you really believe in what you're doing and you believe that there's a reason and that it's, like you said, impactful for others and it's going to make a difference, and if you back yourself, like, most of us, I just think most of us aren't going to do things that are that out there that are going to cause an uproar. Like, I honestly say to myself, what is the worst that can happen? Most of the time, it's things about ego.
Yeah.
The worst thing that could happen is that I launch something and no one buys it and it doesn't sell and I feel a bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I've had things that I've launched and they haven't sold, and I've been in this situation where I've thought I could just slink off and I could just delete the post and no one will know and I'll pretend. And then I thought, no, I'm going to dig my heels in, and I've very vulnerably, this only happened this year, the start of this year, very vulnerably gone onto Instagram and said, these tickets aren't selling and I need them to sell because I know it's going to be amazing and I need you to show up. And if you're watching and you're not buying, but you'd like to, I need you to do it now, And actually what ended up happening was people messaged me and said, so respect that you did that. That must have been really hard, So I just think if people actually stop and think what's the worst that could happen, it's really not that bad.
No, I agree. And people aren't, you're right, it's 3 seconds. Like when we're doing Girls with Hammers conference or something and we're selling tickets, we're happy to just keep repeating the hey, tickets are up, we do it every week. And we're not sitting back going, oh no, what are people gonna think? Oh, and it's always a sellout in the end, but it's you've got to keep showing up or it won't be. I love it. Now tell me, you so you've gone from this coaching, not gone from because you're still doing the coaching, and then you started, and I absolutely love this, the Hype Club for women, a women's empowerment. What do you do at that place? Tell us. Tell us.
Well, it's funny you should say that. We were talking about phones, you're not wanting to get your phone out earlier. And so Hype Club's this amazing place. No one's bringing their phones in. And so now no one knows what it's about. And I'm like, oh, I'm a bit torn. Like, it's great that they're putting their phones away, but now no one knows what happens inside Hype Club.
Yeah.
So Hype Club is a monthly session that I run, and I just run it out of our local community house, and every month is a different kind of topic. And so I started this during COVID, in between lockdowns, and I was just thinking I need to speak to some like-minded women about something other than the weather or COVID. Like, I'm going to go into it.
Yep.
And so I started it. I usually have about 10 every month, and it's just grown from, it's just all different stuff. We might talk about, like, this week we've got one and we're talking all about boundaries, but like everyone says, oh, you have to set really good boundaries, but what does that actually look like? How do you do that? And how do you maintain them? What happens in 6 months' time when your boundaries still being challenged, So we're talking about that. We do vision boards. We've had different people come in. We had, at the start of this year, we had like my friend who's full-blown witch. She came in and did spells with us and everything. That was amazing. So they range from kind of empowered, where it's real skill development, and then sometimes it's just
focus on yourself.
Yeah. We did one recently and everyone bought things from nature, and we made a huge nature mandala together as a group, and then laid around it and did a meditation. So sometimes it's just kind of soul nourishing. Other times it's quite practical. If you think that you're not happy with your life and you wanted to start chasing some dreams, what is the baby steps to do that? To get people out of that kind of frightened start mode. 2 years coming up 3 years, I guess, I've been running that. And yeah. And then what happened was I was finding that people were feeling like they needed more fun. You know, as women, we don't play, we don't have fun, we don't do any of that. And so I kind of did hype clubs like the Umbrella, and I've done an offshoot that's like the play series. And so yeah, a lot more kind of different things for the play series. And one of those things was Dance Dance Dopamine.
I love it. Now let's talk about first. I want to talk about Dance Dance Open Me. You run that at the Bryagalong Community.
Yeah, the
House.
Bryagalong Community House.
And can people just come? Like how do they
Yes.
register? How do they get there or
Yeah.
come?
So tickets and information is always on my Instagram and Facebook and on my website. The website's just being jigged in the background at the moment. And it's just a show up whenever. So it's not like people don't have to come every month. You can come once and never again. You can come every month. You can pick and choose which ones feel good. And so it's a real kind of like revolving door. We've got like a few that, you know, we've probably got a group of maybe 30 semi-regulars that I might see every other month or something. And they just come when they can. And yeah, when it feels good. So yeah, anyone local can come.
And
Everyone's
that's on eviewilson.com.au. Just
It is.
I just don't want to go past that because if people
Yes.
go, well, where can I do that?
Yes.
Now, and then this fun bit, this you know, Dan,
Yes.
there's a couple of other things. Don't let me forget to go back to the Clubhouse but anyway.
Oh yes, we'll do full circle with that.
Dance Dance Dopamine. So this is the fun part of the hype club. So tell us about. It sounds like I'm going to get drugged up and then I'm going to come out full of yippee happy beans. And is that what happens?
Yes, but like without the drugs.
No drugs.
Dance Dance Dopamine is a dry event. So I just miss, like, especially during COVID, but also, like I said to you, just as women in general, I missed going out. I missed dancing. But I just kind of couldn't be bothered with all the fluff of it. Like I couldn't be bothered thinking about, you know, what are we going to wear and wear, you know, drinks beforehand. And I just couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered with a hangover the next day. And so I got in touch. I had this, you know, idea and I got in touch with our beautiful friend Nige, DJ Nige, and I knew, you know, he's such a champion for women. I knew he'd be up for it straight away. And you know, it's based kind of, it's my version, our version of, you know, you see it similar like no lights, no lycra. Yeah. You know, different variations have been done a lot. And so I always get the shits that like we miss out on stuff because we're in the country. Yeah. Like that really grinds my gears. And so I'm like, well, we'd like that. And so I thought, well, I'm a mindset coach. He's an epic DJ. Surely we can make something amazing happen. And so it's an hour and a half of dancing. And you can wear pajamas, active gear, whatever the hell. Like there is, you know, you don't have to get dressed up. It's a dry event and you come and it's really dark and you just dance and sweat and laugh and have fun for an hour and a half. And it's the best. You know, you get that feeling of being out and being in a room of women and just having such a good time, but not all the fluff that goes with it. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about like eyes leering at you from the edge of the dance floor because it's women only. So that's like bonus. So the first one I tried to run, tickets were dismal. Yeah. And the feedback I got was that people couldn't dance sober, which it broke my heart a bit. And then the other one was that people would see them, like they were worried it wasn't going to be too dark, like it was not going to be dark enough. And so I had to really hustle. I was working with a coach at the time. And I was saying to her, like, I think I'm done. Like, I don't know how much I can push this. I feel like I've pushed it enough and it's not selling. And she was just like, yeah, I don't think you have. Like, I think you could do more. I have like a no stone unturned mentality. And so that's when I sat in the paddock at sunset one night and just did Insta stories and said, this is going to be fucking amazing if you back me with it. Like, I can't run this by myself. Yeah. I need you there. And the tickets aren't selling. And then what happened was it was so all kinds of cool. I had other celebrants who I'm dear friends with in other states buying tickets for me to gift people who locally maybe couldn't afford to come. So it just became a whole big thing, and we had 32 women come, and it was just so amazing. We wear glow sticks, and there's fairy lights everywhere, and it's so much fun. And then this month we just held our second one, and we had 60 women.
Wow.
Yep, and there was a lot of there was women who straight after the first one messaged me and said, I watched your whole campaign for that. I watched the whole lead up. I went to the ticket page 5 times and never went through with it. And then I watched as you post those stories, and I regretted every choice that I made not to go. And I got about 5 of those messages. So I wrote their names down. And then when it came time to do the second one, I messaged them and I was like, I'm not taking no for an answer. Unless you're on an interstate holiday or your child is sick or whatever.
Yeah.
Now is your time. You regretted it the first time and now you're going to come. And so heaps of people brought their friends. Heaps of people were like, I went to this thing and you have to come. But heaps of people come by themselves, which is amazing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at the Bryag Hall, for those who don't know, there's a supper room to one side and it's a bit smaller. And then on the other side is the big main hall. So the first Dance Dopamine, we were in the supper room. And I said, right, next time we're going to go to the hall. And we went to the hall and it was just the best. It was so much fun. So we had 60 women and it was Nige really brought his A game. It was incredible. And so we've just set a date for a third one. And I'm gunning for 100. I want 100 people there.
And same, they can find that on eviewilson.com.
Yeah, it's all there. Yeah, the tickets are actually up now. I haven't advertised it. That's like a scoop for your listeners, Karen.
What date?
It's God. I want to say it's in. I've done so many dates and bookings and things. I want to say it's in September. I want to say the 8th of September. Let me double, triple check.
Testing you. Yeah, I can't keep that. 8th of September?
Yeah.
8th of September. Where is that? Bragle,
yeah.
Bundy
Bryag
Hall?
Bryag Hall. Yeah.
Bryag Hall. Okay. That's fantastic.
So you and Nikki can get your tickets and come along.
Yeah, all right. In our pajamas?
Yeah, you can wear whatever you want.
When is the it doesn't matter. All right. Is it a Saturday night? Is that what it is?
Friday night.
Friday night. Okay. Yeah. All right. Awesome.
So you usually we dance from it's 7:30 till 9. And I should say I kick it off with a mindset kind of like a coaching piece, and it's real self-love, self-empowerment, and everyone's standing there and I just got low music going and I'm yelling at everyone about how their bodies are beautiful the way that they are, and their bodies are made for dancing and they are ready to do this and they're going to love each other and love themselves. And then I build it all up, and then Nige, because he can read my mind, just drops the beat right when I'm ready, and then we just go for it.
Oh, Nige is amazing. I must write him down because I need to give him a mention in when I post this podcast, because he is bloody incredible.
Yeah.
So we've got all these little spikes going off everywhere, like all these little which I think's bloody fantastic, because and this is something that I see a lot of people don't do. Do you know they don't when you're talking about your pillars, do you know?
Yes.
And I think what people want to do, and it's been sort of barreled into us over all these Instagram influencers and God knows why, and all these people who are so successful. Find your niche and stick to it, and don't go wandering off all over the place. And yeah, I do get why people say that, and I do get that you have to have some focus, but I think the world misses out on so many amazing opportunities, and we miss the opportunity to put it out there, but also other people miss the opportunity to receive this stuff if we're sort of stuck so tightly in a niche. I think we're going to look for loose niches. So it's still a niche, but it's just a little bit loose, so we can do all this. Now, you have also got the Clubhouse, which I think, if I'm right, just started the Clubhouse for girls. Is that right? Am I right?
Yes. So after a couple of years of running Hype Club, my 2 girls are 5 and 9, and the older one started saying, well, why can't we come to Hype Club? And I was like, well, because it's for us. like it's for us to go, and we don't have to be mums or employees or wives or anything. We can just be there,
Yeah.
And so, but she kind of kept asking, and, already, God, just the stuff that goes on at school, the friendship issues and just so much already. And so I just like, I think one day I was just chatting on my Instagram and I was like, oh, maybe we should do this for kids, maybe if we did this early enough, then I'd be kind of out of a job with women because we'd get them early,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then the feedback, people were like, oh, I'd pay for that. I would be into that. And so it just kind of kept marinating. And I was thinking about it kind of the second half of last year. And then I thought, yeah, maybe if I had like a baby version. So Hype Club's for us, and then the Clubhouse is for girls. And I was feeling a little bit creatively burnt out. If I'm writing wedding ceremonies, I write them all from scratch, and then I'm coming up with things for Hype Club. I'd kind of stopped by then doing one-on-one coaching. I do it every now and again, but group spaces are really my jam.
Yeah.
And so I was just feeling a bit creatively burnt out, but I knew it was going to be amazing, and I kept sitting on it. And then I was coming up with different ideas, and I was thinking, oh, I should ask my friend Steph about that. She'd know about that. And, oh, I should, actually Steph would probably know about that too. And so Steph's, I grew up with Steph, and I went to school with her, and then we kind of have always been, like there on the sidelines of each other's lives, but not close. And our partners, our husbands, had started kind of getting really friendly and spending more time together. She's got a little girl, and so we'd spend more time together. And then I just thought, if this is going to be amazing, it can't just rely on my creativity alone. Like if it's going to be good, it needs more than just me. And so I reached out to her and I said, like, I really want to give this a red hot crack. And Steph's beautifully creative and wholesome, and she's starting her own flower farm, and she makes her own candles, and like, she's just a babe. And so, yeah, I said to her, like, do you want to join me? Do you want to help me? And so we named her creative director, and she kind of brings that side of it. And so Clubhouse was born. So Clubhouse is essentially, we talk about different topics, but there's always a creative project that goes alongside with it. So the girls are busy with their hands, but they also have something to take home.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, I don't want to kind of go crazy with it. The two of us together mentally cannot do a monthly Clubhouse. Like, that would just be too much. And I was like, how about if we do it once a term and we come up with a theme every term?
Yeah.
And, together I kind of come up with a theme. She comes up with a creative project, and together we create these sessions. And I said, I'd like them to be longer and more kind of meatier once a term.
Yeah.
Rather than lots of little ones, so we can actually get some good conversation with these girls and stuff. And so that was what our naive plan was, that we were going to do that. And so term one, we kicked off with uniqueness. We were going to talk about uniqueness, and the girls, the creative project were these gorgeous, like, their own affirmation cards that they made, and they had photos of themselves on it and wrote on there, like, what they love about themselves and everything. So we were feeling really good about that, and it just went crazy. And I think we did 3 local sessions for that term. And then we had someone approach us and ask us to go down to Eltham in Melbourne and do a day, like a Saturday of sessions back to back. Yeah, so we did that. We're currently in the middle of term 2, where we're talking all about feelings. Starting to talk about, that there's no such thing as good and bad feelings. Yeah. We have feelings, we have them. We're talking to the younger ones, because we split the sessions into 5 to 8-year-olds and then 9 to 12-year-olds. So we're talking to the younger ones about, like, what might that feeling feel like in your body, and how can you, like, why might it come up, and what can you do when it does? and about how like you can feel more than one feeling at a time. That's confusing but normal. And they've been making these gorgeous keychains, and the keychains they've chosen a word, so they've spelt out the word on the keychain, and it's also got, and I should have one here to show you, but I don't. It's also got a little square card on it with our logo on it, but on the other side it's got teaches them, like reminds them how to do their square breathing, so that when they're feeling anxious they can do that. And I talk to them about how like it's amazing because you've always got your hands with you. You know, you can do that at any point. And so that's what they've been doing this term. And I worked at the school canteen the other day, and there was kids shouting at me saying, can you make sure my mum books me in for Clubhouse? I've seen the keychain on such and such's bag. I want one of those. Can you message my mum? It was kind of like cheeky genius to put a logo on a school kid, like a kid's school bag, because they all see it. So that was quite good. And then last night we just launched term 3, and we're talking about friendships, which is so needed. And we're doing stuff. Steph hasn't nutted it out completely yet. It might be different for the younger and the older groups, but it's going to center around a candle. I'm talking to them about how a good friend doesn't blow out your light. A good friend helps your light shine bright. Yeah. So, and it just went crazy. And just before I got on the call to you, I was quickly making up bonus sessions because we sold out you were on our 3rd 5 to 8 year old session. Wow. The other 2 sold out last night. It was funny because, and we on the weekend we did sessions in Sale as well, because we're based just out of Bryag. The Bryag Hall, it's easy and close for us, but also it's huge. It's cheap. Like the community look after us very well, but it's got a huge industrial kitchen, new toilets. It's, really good to use. But we did some sessions in Sale on the weekend as well to get some Sale girls. We had feedback from girls in Sea Spray, like they couldn't get to Bryag. So we went to Sale and did that as well. So just on the weekend, we had another 17 girls come through. So we've just we've just had 60 girls come through so far.
Wow.
Yeah. And so on the weekend, I had a real moment where I was like, I felt like, I joke about that I get bored easy and my brain's in all these different places. But actually, to have a teaching background and then become a mindset coach and have my own girls has been a recipe for Clubhouse.
Yeah.
The teaching background is amazing. Then obviously the mindset coaching stuff, that's been amazing. And then I've got personal experience having the girls at home of what they're into, what they want, what they need. It's kind of accumulated to be the perfect storm.
Very often that's the case, isn't it? We sort of, when we're doing something back here, we're like, I don't know where this is ever going to lead. But when you look back, there's this like stepping stones all the way to where we are now. And honestly, it could be stepping stones to our shitful position now. But it's about our mindset. It's about going, well, you know what? I'm here. Where how can I make the most of exactly where I am at them? I love all this. And quickly, I don't mean quickly, but I don't want to forget your podcast, Wildly Positive.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. When you were talking about how long it takes to edit a podcast, I was like, good God, that's why there's no season 2 of the podcast. Season 1's out there for anyone to listen to, and I'd love to say that there's going to be a season 2 soon, hopefully second half of this year. But it's so time-consuming. Yep. I'm not good at the tech, but I loved doing it. I had really amazing conversations with people who I just wanted to ask them things that they wouldn't normally be asked. Yeah. What are they wildly positive about? What does connection mean to them? And just different things. And it just came up with the best answers. I loved doing that.
I love it. Well, people can go and listen to season 1, but I agree. Podcasts are fantastic while you're doing the talking. It's all the back end stuff.
If I could pay for an editor, I would have the best podcast. Like I could talk and talk and talk, and I've got so many amazing ideas, and the editing really slows me down. I just need to make enough money that I can just pay someone else to do that.
I used to be really fussy with editing and take out every little bit. And now I'm like, nah, I'm editing like editing it so it all, all the bits fit together, and then that's fucking it.
Yeah,
So
I know. And really, like, this is real conversation.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was the same at the start, very fiddly, and then I thought, well, now it sounds like we're a pair of robots. Like, it
yeah,
doesn't sound real anymore. So, yeah. And I think too, of all the favorite podcasts I've got, they're pretty messy,
yeah, yeah. I
which
agree.
I like.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I just do it for ease, whether it's messy or better or not. It's easy, and I just chop the end, chop the front, and join them together. And then I find the hardest bit is the snippet, because I sort of in some ways regret starting it, but I do a video snippet, but I like to pull out some interesting bits, and that takes me the longest. And some days I think, oh shit, I just want to get rid of the snippet thing, and then I think, no, but there's people out there that listen, that come to you and say, I always listen to your podcast, and you think, there's no way I would have ever known that you listen to it, or I don't know, I don't want to take away content from people, because I don't know, I think I don't want to do it to the listeners, but I also think the guest, I think, no, you deserve that snippet. So I don't know, sometimes we punish us. So Evie, I absolutely love this conversation. I love what you're doing. I love your positivity. I also love your vulnerability equally as much, that your willingness to be vulnerable and to put it out there and go, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. Come on, guys, I need help, that sort of stuff. A lot of people are too proud to do that. I really, really admire that about you. Really admire that. I think it's special.
Thank you, Karen. This has been such a good chat. I feel like I haven't had a good, like, juicy chat, like, kind of dreams business chat for a long time.
No, I agree. And even if you and I catch up, it's a 2 minute, like, hey, going good. It's kind of screaming past each other as we go. So it's just even been good just to have this, just take the time to actually catch up properly. So yeah, I've absolutely loved this. So where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's at __ Evie Wilson. Yep. And that is where I hang out the most. I'm on Facebook as Evie Wilson, marriage celebrant and mindset coach. Yep. But you'll find all the juice on Instagram.
And also your website, eviewilson.com.au.
So, yes, which is getting a big glam up at the moment. Because Clubhouse doesn't exist on there. It's kind of happened all so quick. So yeah, Clubhouse, all the information for Clubhouse is going to have its own page, and Hype Club as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I've absolutely loved it. As usual, I love chatting to people. I hate editing, but I love this. And so thank you so much. And I hope that people do come to Dance Dopamine, and I hope that they, I don't know, join your Hype Club, just send the kids to the Clubhouse. And, because I agree with you, we need more of this, and we need it. Well, the women need it because they didn't get it. But the girls need it now so that they can. When I taught disability, I used to say, work yourself out of a job. Make sure you do yourself out of a job. People used to say, why would we do that? And I'd say, because believe me, there will always be plenty of people to work with. But if you can empower somebody that they don't need support, then you've done a great job. You've done a great job. So with the kids, with the Clubhouse, if we can just by you, me, other people, anybody doing stuff for girls, but in particular what you're doing, the Clubhouse, if you can get one girl that doesn't have to seek help, or doesn't get abused, or doesn't feel like she's worthless piece of shit, as an adult, then that's success. That's massive.
Yeah. Massive. I think the same. I think if we can kind of send them into those teen years with a bit of confidence and self-belief and a bit of self-esteem, I know it'll make all the difference. Yeah.
I know too. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm saying just one, but I'm sure there'll be more than just one. But I always measure the success by if you can change one life. That's bloody fantastic. But all right, Evie, well, thank you very much. I've absolutely loved it, and hope maybe we'll make a coffee sometime. We'll try.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we can dance together too. A dance dopamine.
Yes. 8th of September. Yes, I will look that up. All right. Absolutely loved it. Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks,
Evie.
Karen.
Bye bye. See ya.